My name's Lauren, and I grew up in one of those old northeastern towns where nothing ever really changes. The houses there were ancient. Not historic in the nice way either, just old enough that everything creaked, pipes knocked inside the walls, and every basement smelled damp no matter how much bleach people used. Our house sat on a quiet street with giant trees hanging over both sidewalks. During the daytime, it looked normal enough. My mom kept everything spotless all the time. There was always laundry running, candles burning, or some kind of soup cooking in the kitchen. But at night, that house felt different, especially my room. My bedroom was upstairs at the back of the house facing the property next door. The house beside ours looked even older than ours did. Sagging porch, dark windows, massive trees behind it leading into a wooded area nobody really went into. A man named Walter lived there alone. He was probably late 50s or early 60s, but looked older because he smoked constantly. Pale skin, thin lips, watery eyes that always looked irritated. The kind of guy who stood outside at night for no reason. Nobody liked him much. He wasn't openly mean or anything. Just wrong. If you walked past his house, he stared too long. If you waved, sometimes he'd just keep staring without reacting. My dad used to say Walter became strange after his wife disappeared years earlier. Some neighbors claimed she left him. Others said she died. Nobody knew the truth. I first noticed him watching me when I was around 20. I worked weird pharmacy shifts back then, so I stayed awake late almost every night. Sometimes I'd sit in bed until 3 a.m. watching shows with my window cracked open because the upstairs got insanely hot. A few times I noticed movement outside near the fence line. Then one night I saw him clearly. Walter was standing in his backyard staring directly at my window. Not moving. Just standing there. The porch light from his house lit half his face enough for me to recognize him. I shut my curtains immediately. After that, I started noticing him more and more. Sometimes he'd be near the trees behind both houses. Sometimes standing beside his shed. Sometimes just there. Always looking toward my room. One night after showering, I realized my blinds weren't fully closed. There was a small gap in the middle. I glanced toward the window and saw somebody standing directly outside it. I screamed so hard I dropped to the floor. My dad came running upstairs thinking someone broke in. When I told him what happened, he stormed outside and confronted Walter. I watched through the kitchen window while they argued in the driveway. Walter barely reacted. Hands in his pockets. Blank expression. Like nothing about the situation was strange. After that, things stopped for a while. Or maybe I stopped looking. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd exaggerated everything in my head because Walter already creeped me out. Then 8 months later, Walter died. Heart attack apparently. I remember feeling relieved afterward, which sounds awful saying out loud, but it's true. Not because he died, just because I thought it was finally over. But his house staying empty somehow felt worse. The grass grew too tall. One gutter banged constantly during windy nights. No lights ever came on anymore. That empty house started feeling like this dead thing sitting beside ours. Then came the night I still can't explain. My parents were asleep downstairs. My younger sister had fallen asleep on the couch after having friends over earlier. It was around midnight. I'd been binge-watching Prison Break for hours and finally paused it to shower before bed. The upstairs bathroom sat directly across from my room. Tiny bathroom. Old tiles. Loud pipes. I got into the shower and almost immediately felt uncomfortable. Not scared at first. Just aware. Like someone else was inside the bathroom with me. It sounds ridiculous now, but the feeling became overwhelming within seconds. like somebody stood inches away from the tub watching me. I ripped the shower door open, expecting to see my sister messing with me. Nobody was there, but the feeling didn't leave. That's what terrified me. Usually once you realize you're alone, your brain calms down. Mine didn't. It got worse. I shut the water off and practically rushed back to my room. I locked the door. For about an hour, everything felt mostly normal again. Then I started getting this pressure behind my eyes. My standing fan kept making this clicking sound every few seconds. Click, click, click. At one point, I muted the TV just to listen to it because the noise was irritating me so badly. And while I sat there, something yanked my hair violently backward, hard enough to hurt. My whole head jerked. I screamed and spun around expecting someone behind me. Nobody. Nothing. Just my bed and the wall. But my scalp burned where it happened. I grabbed my phone to call my mom. And when I looked up, there was a man attached to my ceiling, bent wrong, like a spider, staring directly down at me. Walter. His face looked pale and stretched from the angle. His eyes stayed completely locked onto mine. Then he moved. He dropped straight toward me. I genuinely thought a grown man was about to land on top of me. I threw my arms over my head and screamed so loud my throat hurt. But nothing hit me. No impact. No weight. Nothing. I opened my eyes and my room was empty. I ran into the hallway screaming for my parents. My dad searched the entire house thinking somebody broke in. Nobody was there. He thought I'd had a nightmare. But I hadn't been asleep. That's the part that haunted me afterward. I was fully awake. After that night, I stopped sleeping in my room. And even now, I still can't sleep with curtains open. I rented a small one-story house outside town about 4 years ago. The place wasn't great. Everything inside had been painted this ugly gray color by the landlord. The driveway ran beside the house toward a detached garage I barely used except for storage. Behind the property were woods. At night, the side yard beside my kitchen became pitch black. I worked long shifts at a tire warehouse back then and usually spent nights gaming or watching football alone. Around the same time, my girlfriend Rachel and I had recently broken up. It wasn't dramatic. No cheating. No screaming. We just fought too much and eventually ended things. We still talked occasionally afterward. The night everything happened, it had rained earlier. Cold wind moved through the trees outside non-stop. Around 11 p.m., I took trash out near the garage and came back inside. An hour later, I heard someone whisper my name outside. Softly. Like they didn't want neighbors hearing. At first I thought it was my friend Rob messing around. Then I heard it again. I checked outside through the front window. Nobody. Empty driveway. Empty road. Still, I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. Nothing. Then I heard movement behind the house. Immediately, I got this awful feeling. I went back inside and locked everything again. For nearly an hour, nothing happened. Then I heard footsteps beside the kitchen window. Slow walking. Not hiding at all. I peeked through a bent section of blinds and saw someone moving through the narrow side yard. Tall. Male. Dark clothes. Walking slowly beside my house while looking toward the windows. I yelled asking what the hell he was doing. The guy stopped. Didn't answer. Just stood there motionless. That silence scared me more than anything. Then he walked toward the backyard and disappeared behind the garage. 10 minutes later he returned. Same slow walk. Same silence. I yelled again asking who he was. This time he said one word. Rachel. The second I heard my ex's name, my stomach dropped. This wasn't random anymore. The guy stepped closer to the kitchen window and I finally saw part of his face. Thin. Older than me. Eyes opened way too wide. Then he smashed the window. I heard him running immediately afterward toward the backyard. I called Rachel instantly. At first she sounded confused. Then I described the guy. There was this long silence. Finally she said, "James, I think I know who that is." Apparently for weeks she'd been noticing the same man around her apartment complex, sitting in cars nearby, watching from parking lots, appearing at random places. She never reported him because technically he'd never threatened her. Then she remembered where she recognized him from. An older customer from the bookstore where she used to work. Quiet guy. Always hanging around near closing time. Asking personal questions. Watching her too much. She thought it was harmless at first. Until he started appearing everywhere. The police came that night after I called them. They searched the woods. Nothing. But afterwards strange things kept happening. Someone stood outside Rachel's apartment several nights in a row. I started finding footprints near my garage after rainstorms. One morning I discovered somebody had left a dead flashlight on my porch. No note. No explanation. Just placed there carefully. Then one night Rachel called me crying. She said someone knocked on her apartment door around 2 a.m. When she checked the peephole, nobody was there. But written on the hallway wall beside her door in black marker were the words, "I saw you together." That was the moment we both realized this guy wasn't just watching. He was obsessed. And somehow, he connected both of us together inside whatever fantasy existed in his head. So my entire life existed downstairs. Living room. Kitchen. I'd recently gone through a breakup too, so the isolation felt heavier than usual. My dog had died from cancer 2 months earlier. That Thursday night started completely normal. Watched random videos about restoring arcade machines. I locked every door before settling onto the couch with a blanket. Around midnight, I heard the laundry room door creak. Softly. Like it bumped the wall. I muted the TV and listened. Then came footsteps. Slow. Inside the house. A man walked around the kitchen corner wearing a black ski mask, gloves, and a handgun hanging loosely beside his leg. My body completely froze. He pointed the gun at me calmly and said, "Sit down." No yelling. No threats. I sat immediately. He dragged a dining chair across the floor and placed it directly across from me. Then he sat down and stared at me. That's all. 4 hours. No robbery. No screaming. No demands. Nothing. The TV stayed playing quietly in the background while this masked stranger sat 6 feet away holding a gun. It felt unreal. At one point I whispered, "You can take whatever you want." No response. Later I said it again. Still nothing. He barely moved except occasionally adjusting the gun. I started wondering if he thought someone else lived there. Or maybe he was waiting for someone. After about an hour, I finally started crying. He didn't react at all. That somehow scared me worse. If he'd been angry or excited or emotional, maybe I could have understood him. But he felt empty. At one point I asked if I could use the bathroom. He nodded. When I stood up, he immediately stood too. That terrified me. He followed halfway down the hallway before stopping. Inside the bathroom, I considered climbing out the tiny window, but it barely opened. And honestly, I thought if I tried escaping, he'd shoot me. When I came back out, He was sitting exactly where he'd been before. Hours passed. The microwave clock became the only thing grounding me to reality. 1:17. 1:43. 2:26. Eventually he finally spoke again. Quietly. "You live here alone." I lied immediately and said someone was coming over soon. He stared at me for a long time after that. Then later he went into my kitchen, grabbed one of my bottled waters, drank some, and sat back down again. That detail still messes with me, because for half a second he looked normal. At one point he noticed I was shivering and pushed the blanket toward me using the gun. Again. Human. Then suddenly terrifying again. Near dawn, light slowly started filling the room. I could finally see details better. Mud on one knee. Grey hoodie under the jacket. Old work boots. And I swear the daylight changed him too. He became restless. Reality was returning. Finally around 4 a.m. he stood up and pointed the gun directly at me. I thought that was it. Instead he said, "Count to 100 after I leave." That was the end. I sat frozen on the couch for several minutes afterward because I genuinely believed he was still outside watching the house. The police never found him. And to this day, nobody knows why he stayed there all night.